everybody, this is Terry Jeanette with Be Creative, and today we're going to be creative with an old pair of jeans.
So a couple of months ago, Marna over at Dolls Rescued invited me to participate in a challenge. And the challenge was to take an old pair of jeans and make something for one of our dolls. Well, I'm always up for a challenge, especially if it has anything to do with recycling. I went back and forth on what I was going to do, and then it dawned on me, I know exactly what I want to do. And that is, I want to get a doll and turn her into Mrs. Roper. I mentioned this to my sister, and she said, hey, I have a doll that would be perfect for Mrs. Roper. Let me send her to you. You're probably wondering, why in the world does she want to do a Mrs. Roper doll? And some of you may even be asking, who the heck is Mrs. Roper? Mrs. Roper actually is a character on a 70s sitcom called Three's Company. And our dance group, called the Louisiana Lunatics, often likes to dress like Mrs. Roper and dance. So in order to dress my doll like Mrs. Roper, I need to make her a caftan and probably a pair of earrings. Now, normally a caftan is made of very flowy fabric, but since this is a denim or jean challenge, I have to use denim. And I kind of want it to look a little bit like mine, like maybe use that heart as an inspiration. And by the way, we were actually, quote, discovered, so to speak, and invited to perform in a couple of major parades during the 4th of July 250th birthday of the U.S. Some of you actually may have seen us on TV during these times. All right, let's start making this caftan. So the first thing I did is I took the doll and I started doing some measuring from side to side, from one end of her arm to the other, and then from the neck down to her feet. Because I don't have a proper needle on my sewing machine to sew on denim, I'm actually going to be doing all of this by hand. I'm going to be using a technique called slow stitching, and it uses embroidery thread. While I'm measuring, I'm keeping in mind that I want the sides and the bottom kind of raveled a little bit. So I took those measurements and I cut out 2 squares that size. So once I have all this cut out, I want the edges to fray. So I'm actually going to throw it in the washing machine with a load of towels and then in the dryer. We got some good fraying here. Now to throw them in the dryer. Now that they have been washed and dried, I thought they were going to ravel a little bit more than this, but they didn't. But that's okay. I'm just going to trim this off now. All right, got that trimmed. And actually it looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave it that way. But I do need to get some fray check and kind of run along the edges so it doesn't unravel more. Normally, when you sew something, you put right sides together. I'm putting wrong sides together, and you'll see why I'm doing that here in just a little bit. Because these girls have such big heads, everything that they wear usually has to go on from the bottom up. So right now, I'm going to take where her hips are. That's the second widest part of her, besides her head. And I'm going to measure to make sure that when I put this on, it can go over her hips. And so once I measured it, I pinned it like this. Now I need to gather my embroidery thread and my embroidery needle and start sewing it up. Before I started this project, I actually drew it out a little bit. Now a caftan is just a square, and I'm going to sew along the sides there, orange and green, right along there. Now for the heart, I'm going to be using pink and yellow. Pink on the outside, and then I have a yellow flower with an orange center. All right, so I sewed the top there, and then I'm trying it on her. I've got her arms sticking out, and then I'm going to measure where to start sewing like this, because a caftan is square like that, and then I'll have to sew these up. But I just want to pin where the armholes will be. Before I sew the second side up, I want to go ahead and do the heart so I can get my hand in there and it'd be easier to sew the heart and the flower. And I just basically made a little pattern and pinned it on there, and I'm just sewing around to make a heart. Hopefully this is going to work. So yeah, I was just a little bit excited. It came out exactly how I anticipated. Now that I got the heart done, I need to do a couple things. I'm going to cut the neck a little bit more, and I need to put the flower in the middle, like so. This is coming out so good, and I'm so excited about it. Now I need to finish the other side. I think I'm pretty much done. I could do some more stitching other places, like at the top. I could add some more color to it, and maybe at the bottom. But you know what? I think I'm just going to leave it. Sometimes less is more. I love how this turned out. And yeah, it's a little stiff for a caftan, but this is a doll. And it is a denim challenge. And I really like how this turned out. Now, one thing I do need to do is kind of fix her hair a little bit. It is quite the mess, and it's in her face. And here she is. I also made her some earrings. Aren't they cute? I will do a whole separate video on how I made these earrings on my other channel, which is a jewelry channel called Tappingflamingo. And as far as her hair goes, I do need to probably fix it a little bit better. Mrs. Roper normally doesn't wear anything in her hair, but this Mrs. Roper needs something in her hair because, well, it's just in her face. Here's an up-close look at her caftan. Like I said, I did some slow stitching, which is kind of like embroidery. There's her earrings. Yes, her hairstyle is a little over the top, but Mrs. Roper was a bit over the top. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you go check out Marna's channel, and there's probably going to be some others joining in. So if you see anybody else doing a denim challenge for their doll, check out their video, and y'all have a great day. This is Terry Jeanette with Be Creative, signing out for now. Bye-bye.